Welcome to the Excelsior Health Podcast. This is the podcast for busy professionals and busy parents who are looking to lose fat while building strength and ultimately transform their health. What we do, guys, on this podcast, we take the complicated and confusing aspects of health and fitness and we break it down to simple strategies and tactics that you can implement in your life so that way you get real results. I'm your host of this podcast, Coach Cory Fernandez. I'm the owner of Training for Warriors Sauga, Mississauga's #1 personal strength training and lifestyle studio. So today, guys, we have a great one for you. This is going to be almost like a meditation session for myself, but I would also say it's probably going to be practice and preparation. So today's episode, what we're calling it, it's the top 10 lessons after 10 years in business and transformations. And basically what I'm referring to, guys, is, hey, in about a week's time, it's going to be our 10-year anniversary of Training for Warriors Sauga being in existence. And I'm so proud of it because, our mission is to save lives. And we've had, after 10 years, thousands of people that have come through these doors to work out, to train, for positive energy, to build relationships. But then when you really break it down, we've had hundreds of people just transform their way of life. And that's our ultimate goal. So I think the experiences of teaching people how to transform their life, the lessons that I've learned as a coach and as a student and as a business owner from the Training for Warriors system itself, and then the hardships, the triumphs, the experiences of just running a business, it's just given me a lot of perspective on ways that you can improve and succeed in life. So with this one today, it's very personal for me to kind of share these things. And I hope they find you value because a lot of these lessons, they've been extracted from what I just said, experiences, but also mentors and people and even coaching people to do these things. Now, this will be a little bit of practice for me because one of the traditions that we do have at Training for Warriors Sauga is we do what's called a Core Value Awards banquet. A big part of what we do at Training for Warriors is we train, but we also like to have fun and we like to celebrate the achievements and the results of our clients. And what we refer our clients to, in our community is we call them students. So this is a banquet for our students where everybody could get dressed up, swagged out, dolled out, not recognize each other from our just normal gym gear. And the main thing is, yes, we're going to eat, we're going to dance, we're going to party it up, but we are going to be giving out the awards. And we're going to be giving out awards based on like physical performance stuff that people have accomplished. But more importantly, what the banquet is about, it's about giving out awards based on our 9 core values that we have. So yes, we're teaching people how to strength train and how to be fit and what to eat. Another part of what we're doing is we're using the vehicle, or if you want to say the instrument of fitness to teach core values that lead to just living a successful life, right? So I take a lot of time to prepare those speeches. And right now, what I'm kind of giving insight on this podcast is I'm just, doing a little bit of, preparation for what will be my opening speech at the banquet. And the opening speech is what I just said this podcast is going to be. It's going to be 10 lessons from being 10 years in business and transformations. All right, guys. So I'm going to give you guys the rundown. They're not in any particular order. All these concepts is what I would call them, or these like beliefs. They're, I feel like, fundamental to if you're someone who's watching this and you want to transform your health. These are concepts that you have to learn and you have to believe in them, and then you have to practice them on a regular. So this is going to be my practice, and hopefully you guys get some great value. And those of you guys that are students at Training for Warriors Sauga, I know you guys are going to be inspired and deeply motivated to take action when you're at the event. But hopefully after you listen to this episode, which will be after the event has been finished, it will give you the reminders of some of the things that stood out to you. All right, so let's start it out. Lesson number one that I have for you guys. This is something that you've probably heard me say this on the podcast before. It's something I say almost weekly in the dojo, is what we call it here. It's get comfortable being uncomfortable. All right. Behind me, when you walk into this facility, it's put in these big black bold letters because this is one of the fundamental lessons that I learned from delivering the TFW system that has led to so much growth in my life. And that's what I want you to think about. This first one is a big reason why people come to train is they want to grow, right? They want to develop in their life. And one of the areas that they're focusing on is their health, their physique. So growth has a universal requirement. And the requirement for that, guys, it is discomfort. So nothing will grow in a state of comfort. But when you're constantly throwing yourself in the unknown or the slight challenge and discomfort, it gives you the ability to learn. It gives you the ability to progress and then slowly start to achieve results. Now, one of my favorite quotes that goes along with this is easy choices equal a hard life. Hard choices equal easier life. So this goes along with this concept of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. So I just want to tie this into like fitness. Is an easy choice, guys, is like when you wake up in the morning, especially right now it's cold, and you're just like, man, I'd rather just sit in my bed. Like this extra 2 hours of doing nothingness before work, I just want to do that. That's an easy choice. However, when you repeatedly make that choice to say, you know what, this is just comfortable right now. Like I don't want to like get up, get dressed, go in the car, sweat, work out. You making that choice over time, what's going to happen? It will make your life harder. Because over the course of, let's say, 5 years, 10 years, what typically happens to people that are not physically active is they gain weight, right? So now you've gained weight and maybe you're not as confident in your clothes. But then also what happens is maybe because you've gained weight and a lack of movement and exercise, you're also lacking energy. And because you lack energy, you don't have that same vitality, that same vibrant presence that you might carry over in the other areas of your life, right? Other things, because you're not physically active and you're making that choice, is you might get sick easier because your immune system is down. So these are all things that, yes, in the moment, it's so much easier to just say no, but in the long run, it will make your life so much harder. Right? That's one thing you got to remember. And then on the other way, if you flip it around to the quote, is, hey, hard choices equal an easier life. So again, these hard choices that we got to make on a daily basis, it is when the alarm goes off, it's having the discipline to get up and get out the door. It is, instead of opting to just have a Red Bull in the morning and some orange juice, it's having the water, right? The 20 ounces of water. It's the discipline that, I got to get this ready and do that. It's choosing to have the more cooked meals and the quality meals versus, man, it's so much easier if I just go pick up some fast food and just get this food down and then get back to what I'm doing, right? So again, in the present moment, if you're willing to have the discomfort and take on the difficulty of making these hard choices, if you look over a long horizon, right, which is what successful people do, it's going to make life so much easier. You being fitter, you being energetic, you looking a certain way, you performing a certain way is going to make your life easier because financially, probably spiritually, probably mentally, probably physically and emotionally, all those things are going to be improved because of your ability to handle discomfort. All right. Now, one quote that I want to put here too is a big part of TFW is stepping forward to the things that kind of scare us, right? So one expression that I got from, I believe it was Robin Sharma was, hug the monsters. right? The monsters represent the things that you feel scared about. And the more you hug them and make friends with them, the less fear they have over you. And to put this outside of the fitness space, it's like, one of the things that people are scared of the most is public speaking. I think it's the number one fear that people have. But public speaking, think of it as a monster. So the more you put yourself out there, and maybe you talk at work in staff meetings, or maybe you do a meeting with your family and you're speaking and making eye contact, it becomes something that you less get anxiety on when you have to do it in other situations, right? So think about that. Are you hugging the monsters? In the beginning, it's going to be tough, right? When you do a workout, when you come to a new environment like a personal training studio like this, it's going to feel so foreign to you. But the more you hug the monster, the more you lean into discomfort, on the other side of it is going to be growth. It's going to be progress. And eventually, if you do it for a long enough time, you're going to have skills. So last point that I want to point, guys, is, I'll read this here, is the strength you didn't know you had comes on the other side of discomfort. So this is going to be my tip number one, guys, is, hey, get comfortable being uncomfortable, not only in your fitness, but in your career, in your relationships, and in your personal development. All right, so now moving over. Number 2, this was a huge mindset shift to me. And until this day, I think this is probably one of the most important traits that successful people have, and I also believe healthy people have. It's not what happens, it's the meaning that you attach. So I'll say it in a full way right now. It's not the events of your life that define you. It's the meaning that you give towards those events that will determine your future results. So what do I mean by that? Is there can be a situation that happens to 2 people. And one person, it could have such a negative impact on the trajectory of their life. But that same situation, the same problems, if you want to say it, can have that person be on a path of success and growth and achievement. What's the difference? What I would say is it's the way the people frame the challenge. Okay, it's the perception of the challenge. It's the meaning that they give to it. So let's give a real example for that. I'm going to use my own personal example. I think today in society, it's not as uncommon that a single parent will raise a kid. So for me, I was raised by a single mom. My dad, by the time I was 8 years old, wasn't in my life. And even before that, I would see my dad every 2 weeks, right? So I wasn't with him on a daily basis. But that same situation, as a young man grows up in his life, that can be the reason why for them, they can't be a good father. So this happens plenty of times, is a young man might say, you know what, I didn't have my dad, therefore that's why I don't know how to have a healthy relationship. I don't know how to be there for my kids consistently. That's the reason. Where for me, I've always reframed it with the help of seeing other strong men and just kind of learning this concept is, yes, my dad wasn't in my life and raising me and being at every practice. However, that is the reason why I'm going to continue to be a great father for my kids and why I'm always going to be present in their life. It's because I see how that impacted me and I see what not to do. And that's the example that I want you guys to understand is just because something bad happens to you, it doesn't mean it has to have a negative future result. It can actually be the seeds of your greatness. And I think Napoleon Hill has a great book called Think and Grow Rich. One of the big quotes from that book is, within every failure is the seed of future greatness, or the opportunity for future greatness if you look at the problem a certain way. So, big understanding with this concept, guys, is when you control the meaning, you control your life. So a couple of reframe strategies or even like self-talk, if you want to call it, that I believe successful people use, but we use it in training for warriors, that really changed my life in the beginning as I was learning this system and I was coaching people. And now these are just normal belief systems that I have. And then now our clients are familiar with these, and then they use it to help them stay on track, but they also will use it in other areas of their life when they're being challenged. So a couple reframing messages I want you to understand. Every setback is an opportunity for a greater comeback. Every obstacle becomes the seed of a future opportunity. Every mess can turn into your message. Every test can become your testimony. So the point that I want you guys to understand is the pain that we go through in some of these life experiences, when you frame them correctly and you use this type of mindset, they can become the power within you. And that's a big part of what today's message is yes, shit's gonna happen. A lot of stuff's gonna happen. Most of the time it's gonna be bad, but if you have the ability to look for the lesson, look for the opportunity, look for the growth, it can set you on a path that if that thing didn't happen, you maybe not be as successful as you are. You might not meet the partner that you wanted, right? Because that relationship ended, it opened up the door for you to go find the other person, right? That injury happened in your fitness, now it forced you to train smarter, or it forced you to pay attention to your food more because you can't just rely on extreme training, right? That job situation that happened, man, it forced you to go open up a new business, and now you're being able to set up your family and your own desires, right? So perspective, guys, is always going to drive your performance, and being able to reframe these situations is something that every person needs to do. All right, lesson 3. And again, this is something you probably heard on the podcast multiple times, but is repetition is the mother of skill. So being an athlete myself, this is maybe something I didn't really fully understand, but it was like ingrained by just playing sports, right? And by ingrained, I mean like when you play sports, coaches will often say, practice, right? Practice makes perfect. Do it again. Do it again. And learning that, hey, you have to do something over and over and over again before it becomes good. It's a skill that transfers over to so many areas in your life. I'll give you guys a quick story that I love about this, that I was reading in a book that kind of hits home about the repetition is the mother of skill. There was this guy who I believe he's an author. I don't know his name, but he was talking about his first interaction with Kobe Bryant. And so many people obviously love Kobe Bryant because of his amazing career, but a lot of people love Kobe Bryant because of his attitude. Not a lot of people like spending time with people like Kobe Bryant because they're hard to get along with because they have such a high standard. But the interview he gave is that, you know, Kobe Bryant, he went to go interview him. So he went to his court and he wanted to beat him there to be early. But of course, Kobe Bryant was there at 4 a.m. instead of being there at 4:30 a.m. So that was already one thing. And as he was observing Kobe, he was seeing that Kobe was doing like such basic moves. So whether it was working on his chest pass, his fundamentals of dribbling, his footwork, 1-2, hitting his shot, it was just very basic things. And as he started talking to Kobe, he was just like, hey, like, Kobe, like, you're one of the best players in the world. I noticed like this workout that you're doing, it's very basic. Like, there's not much advanced things you're doing. Why is that? And then Kobe simply responded, I'm the best in the world because I do the basics. I master the basics. And the lesson that the guy got from him is when nobody's watching, right? Are you willing to do the boring work? Are you willing to do the basics over and over and over again till it turns into mastery? And that's often the difference of someone who's very skilled, very good, very proficient in something, is they're the person that have been doing the hard, boring, fundamental stuff in the unseen hours, where nobody's around cheering them on, giving them a pat on the back or congratulations. That's when they do it. So how does that apply to health and fitness? Guys, We got to be able to do the boring work when your coach is not around, when your teammates, your friends. It's those opportunities where you're sitting there and you're looking in your fridge and the food you're supposed to eat is there, but then you go grab the thing you're not supposed to eat, right? It's the opportunity when you're by yourself in the gym for whatever reason. Maybe it was a low attendance session. It's just you and your coach, right? Or you're on vacation. It's, are you willing to do the boring work of just, hey, I'm just going to get this training session in? And then the other thing is, guys, like repetition is a mother of skill. Is sometimes when it comes to fitness, people get so bored of fitness. They're like, oh man, I'm doing deadlifts again, squats, push-ups. Like what's the other thing that I got to do? But guys, that's the magic, is doing those basic moves. You have to do them over and over and over until you get great at them. And by getting great at them, it's as you increase the weights and you perform them with better form, that's what leads to the better results. All right. So whether it's strength training, whether it's getting stronger in the exercises, the act of showing up, tracking your food, tracking your sleep habits, these are all skills. And this is something that you have to be willing to make lots of mistakes in the beginning and let time take its course with repetitions and practice to eventually get really good at it. And that's one thing that I have to learn in business is, yeah, you know what? The first couple of times I take people on tours, I do a sales meeting, I'm going to suck at it. The first time I had to tell stories of the days and message, I wasn't as captivating, I wasn't as clear. The first month or the first 6 months of running the TFW experience, it wasn't as sharp as it is now, but these are all things that get improved and tweaked by repetition and practice. So the way I'll end it, guys, is the greatest achievers, they don't quit because it's boring. They win because they're willing to repeat the mundane habits. Lesson number 4, confidence comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. So a big result of why people come to this program and ultimately why people work out is they want to build their self-confidence. And the self-confidence ultimately, is correlated to how you show up with your physique, how you show up in your life. And the phrase that I've always connected to confidence is confidence comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. So if you want to become more confident, it's basically doing the things you said you were going to do. If you had a goal, it's reaching the goal. If it was a commitment and you told somebody you was going to do something, it's keeping your commitment. If it was an action that you were supposed to do, it's doing the action to the best of your ability. And it's funny, when my son, who's 8 years old now, I try to teach him these concepts. Sometimes it goes in one ear, out the other, but I think it stays. And one day I asked him, I said, this one, it was like, I think 5 years old, maybe 6. I said, Easton, what does confidence mean? Daddy talks about that all the time, is you need that in sports and you need that in life. What is it? And he said, confidence is when you trust yourself. And I was like, yeah, you're right, man. That's pretty good. So I want you guys to understand that is how we build trust with ourselves and how we strengthen our identity and how we perceive ourselves. It's the commitments that we keep. It's the promises that we keep to ourselves. So another thing to think about, I think confidence is probably like the biggest disease that we have in the world today. I know there's lots of things out there like obesity, there's depression, there's all these things that go around, right? But like, because of social media, because of how the world's changing so fast and stress is such in front of us, is like confidence is at an all-time low. And a lot of it is wrapped up in what we think other people think about us. So we get so concerned, is like, man, what does my mom think about me? What does my dad, what does my coworkers, or what does this person think about me? And it starts to ruin our confidence. And I'm not going to lie and say I don't think about what other people think about, but it's to a less capacity to what most people do, and it allows me to have more confidence in myself. And the big connection I want you to understand is if you're going to build more confidence, it's spending less time caring about what other people think, especially strangers or especially people that don't live the life that you want, and spending more time building the trust within yourself and keeping the commitments with yourself. That's where confidence is ultimately born. So that's why you see when someone loses a significant amount of body fat, and they did it in a way, where maybe it took time, it took effort. Confidence is born because they had to become somebody in that pursuit of that. When you see somebody change their body and they add more muscle, it's because they kept the promises to themselves. They had to show up to the workouts. They had to attempt certain weights and fail at the weights before they achieved the weights, right? And same thing goes for your career and your business. It's waking up in the morning and doing the task when nobody was watching you, and doing it for a long enough time without getting the congratulations, without getting the promotion. But because you were doing it for yourself and you saw yourself keeping that commitment, that confidence starts to emerge. And then once it emerges, other people see it. And again, it opens up more opportunities. So confidence is one of the most important things. Is like when you're living life with confidence, you'll make more money, you'll attract better partners, or you'll strengthen the relationship with your partner because your partner sees you in a better light. You show up better for your kids, and ultimately it just leads to more opportunities. So that's going to be a big one, guys, and that's a big one that has come as a part of being in this program. Is just understanding is, hey, you got to keep the way you keep your confidence, or the way you build your confidence, is keeping the commitments to yourself. Lesson 5, excellence is exhausting. So this expression, I was in a mentorship group with Andy Frisella, and he was talking about, as a business owner, how to manage and overcome and deal with stress, anxiety, because those things are correlated to running your own business or having a high demanding job. Even if you don't, I think most people can agree that, man, I feel pressure, I feel stress, part of life. And that was one phrase when he said that, I wrote it down, and I just say it all the time, and I remind myself when I'm going through it, is excellence is exhausting. And basically what it means is, when you're pursuing a high standard in your life, it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be challenging, because if it wasn't, everybody else could do it. Right? So when you're going through this difficult period as you're pursuing new standards and new growth, you just have to know, like, this is the way it's supposed to feel. And that's why, for myself, when I spend time with mentors and I spend time with people that are success driven and they're very fit, they'll share to you the reality that, yeah, it's supposed to be hard. That's why you get the benefit at the end. That's why you look a certain way. That's why you have the money in your account. That's why you have the family, is because you went through the difficulty that when most people go through the difficulty, they stop and they turn around. So excellence will cost you energy. It is tiring, but the way you want to think about it is, what's the alternative? Being fat, unhealthy, weak, depressed, fragile, man, that's exhausting too. Not being able to go up the stairs because you're just physically not fit, man, that's exhausting. Lying in your bed each night, tossing and turning because you're just so unhappy with where you are with your work and your career and your relationships, it's exhausting. So the real thing that I learned from it is, like, man, you're going to be exhausted anyways. What do you want that exhaustion to produce? I would rather be exhausted in effort. I would be exhausted in positive habits. That's what I would rather use. So that's the decision you got to make, is like, being mediocre and just doing the easy things. Yeah, in the meantime, it might not be that hard, but you will eventually be exhausted with the result. Pursuing excellence, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your health and fitness, it is going to be difficult, but it's going to be worth it in the end. So key point here, guys, high performers, They're not going to wait to feel ready, right? They're just going to take action. They're going to act differently than how you feel. That's one thing that I really, really have taken away from the Training for Warriors system is you could be tired, man. You could be exhausted, but you don't have to act it. In a workout, you could have had a bad night's sleep, but if you start to act differently, high five, you start to move with a little pace, eventually what happens is you become the thing like you act. Right? So that's a real trick, right? If you're feeling tired, lethargic, put your hands up, move with a different pace. That movement is going to change how you feel. Those motions are going to impact your emotions, right? So at the end of the day, guys, excellence is not about perfection, right? There's no such thing as being perfect. We all have flaws, especially when it comes to fitness. We're all going to make mistakes, but chasing excellence is about chasing a standard. And in order to have a high standard, and have the things that most people don't have, which is healthy, fit, good careers, good family life, good relationships, you got to be willing to do the exhausting, difficult habits and tactics, right? So if you're with me, be excellent, right? Take the exhaustion because it's worth it.
Hey guys, hope you guys are enjoying the episode so far. This is part 1 of 2. So make sure you finish watching this episode. You'll see it next week or the next video that comes up on the channel. We look forward to having more amazing podcasts and providing you guys lots of value. Beastie!